Good evening, my dreamwalkers. You stand beneath my stars, within my temple. Listen now, and I shall tell you what the night remembers. Long, long ago, before the world wore a name, before the sky learned its curve, and before the first star pricked the height of heaven, there was only the vast. It was not empty, and it was not full. It was the between, patient as a breath held by a sleeping giant. From that waiting, a hush older than silence gathered itself, and from that hush night stepped forth. Nyx, eldest of goddesses, dark as ink and gentle as a mother's hand. She did not thunder, she did not blaze. She entered as a veil enters a room, changing everything it touches without raising a sound. In the first days, while the world was soft with newness, Nyx walked beside Erebos, the deep dark. From their nearness, the bright upper air stirred and blinked awake. From their embrace, day rose with warm hands. So the elders said, light was the secret child of darkness, and day a gift swaddled in night. At the far edge of the earth stood a doorway of mist. Through it day would pass, and night would come. Then night would pass, and day would come again. They did not quarrel. They traded places like sisters, sharing a single cloak. When Nyx came, fields lay down as if they were tired animals, and the sea grew smooth, as though it remembered a lullaby from its childhood. On a road no mortal could finish walking, there stood the House of Night. Its door frame was shadow, its threshold was cool. Its eaves dripped with the quiet of 1,000 midnights. There at the turning of the world, Hemera, whom men call Day, returned when her work was done. There Nyx fastened stars to her robe like seeds shaken from a patient hand, and took the sky. The House of Night held no lamps, yet nothing was lost. It held no clocks, yet nothing was late. It was the place where the world remembered to breathe. Nyx was mother not only to shadows that fall upon the ground, but to the shadows that dwell in the heart. From her came Moros, doom, who waits at every crossroads and never hurries. From her came the Keras, who haunt the battlefields and gather last breaths in quiet bowls. From her came Thanatos, the still one at the end of all journeys, and from her came Hypnos, his gentle twin, who closes eyes without pain. From her roof flew the Oneiroi, the dreamers, small and winged, pouring images into sleeping minds as a river pours into the sea. From her also came Nemesis, the weigher, who balances what is owed, Apathy, the sly deceiver, Garrus, old age with careful feet, Eris, strife, who pricks the world so it does not grow dull, and Philotes, friendship, a golden cord tied softly around the wrist. See how the night is generous, the grandmother said. She births both thorn and balm, warning and comfort, and holds them without dropping either. Once in an age of schemes, the Thunder King strode red with wrath. Hypnos, who had played a small part in mischief, fled through the halls of the sky, his wings beating like frightened birds. He fell into his mother's robe. The lifted hand of the sky's lord paused and fell quiet. There are powers older than anger. There are thresholds even a king does not cross. From then, the high ones remembered what men already knew. Night is a boundary kept with tenderness. In markets where figs sweetened the air, on boats that rocked as if the sea were a cradle, people spoke of Nyx in ways that made sense to their hands. Some said she drove a chariot across the firmament, and the stars shook loose from her cloak like seed. Some said she walked barefoot over rooftops and dew formed where her heels cooled the tiles. Some swore an ancient statue of her stood in a bright temple darkened by the smoke of years, not worshipped loudly, but never forgotten. Parents told their children, when night comes, set down tools and pride. She is the eldest guest of the world. It is good manners to let her in. Beyond the last street and the last lamp lies a lake that remembers the stars. When Nyx leans over it, the sky looks up at itself. The Oneiroi rinse their little bowls at the shore. Each bowl holds a memory set aside and a hope not yet named. They pour the water back into the world and pictures form. A hill with a single tree, a warm hand, a road that knows familiar feet. Hypnos sets a small patient boat upon the lake. It moves without oars as if the water itself were breathing. Those whom the day has thinned pass into it, and the lake understands. Long ago, a town forgot how to rest. The sun set obediently, the lamps obeyed, but the people kept their brows knotted and their fingers fast. Their clocks swallowed minutes whole and asked for more. Bread was baked without tasting. Songs were sung without listening. Harvests were gathered and felt like debt. Word reached the house of night. Hypnos rose, not with trumpets but with the mild patience of grass after rain. He came to the town at the hour when even cats consider stillness. He found doors bolted and windows bright. He knocked nowhere. He stood in the square and closed his eyes. When eyes close, lashes meet, two thin gates that greet each other after a long road. He kept them closed until the town's heartbeat remembered a slower drum. In the baker's shop, a loaf sighed as if it had just been set down. In the scribe's house, a page stopped scratching and became a page again. At the guardhouse, dice paused mid-rattle and rested like clay. Hypnos walked the lanes and hung little hooks outside every home. Hooks for burdens, on each hook a small tablet for now. At first no one used them. The proud are slow learners. Then an old woman, whose back had learned the alphabet of pain, set her bundle on a hook. It did not fall, it did not vanish, it simply waited for now. Her neighbor followed, then another. The square grew lined with waiting things, ledgers, grudges, tasks sharp as thorns, questions still wet with worry. The town exhaled with the sound of new snow settling. Hypnos visited the clock lath. He placed his palm on its face, and the hands remembered what they were for, not to hunt men, but to accompany them. He left before dawn. The hooks remained. From that day, the town slept like orchards do, with purpose and without apology. And each morning the people collected what still needed doing. Much had grown lighter during the night's keeping, and some had simply turned into harmless shadow. The boat glided, the bowls gleamed, the sky rehearsed itself on the water as if the world were practicing being gentle. Nyx stood where shore becomes reflection. The dreamers lifted their bowls. None spilled. Once there was a child who carried a blank space where a memory should have been. It was not grief. It was not a wound. It was a room whose door had blown shut. The child asked elders for the key. Keys were offered. None fit. The Oneiroi heard. They met at the lake that remembers the stars. One said, "Memories found by chasing grow thorns." Another said, "Memories found by waiting grow flowers." They dipped a silver bowl narrow as a crescent into the water until it caught the mirror of a small house, a bent tree, a song that once crossed a threshold. That night the dreamers poured carefully. A doorway stirred. A hinge recalled its duty. In the morning the child woke humming a tune whose words had flown but whose warmth had stayed. The blank space did not demand to be filled. It began to glow like a hearth, where fire will be built when the season turns. The elders nodded. Not all doors must be opened at once. The child grew, and the room opened of its own accord, and inside was not a knife, but a cup. There was an evening when the pillars of air shook, as if they feared to fall, and the halls of cloud reddened with anger. The High One sought the culprit of mischief. and found the world too small to contain his stride. But Hypnos flew to the mother who had made him without witness and pressed his brow to her side. Nyx looked once toward the storm, and the storm remembered rain. It left revenge for mourning and found humility instead. After that, even thrones kept a spare chair beside the hearth to show there is a seat in every house for night. And those she shelters. Stories travel farther than by other names and shapes. Other people spoke of the same ancient presence. In the north, night rode first with frost on her mare's mane. Day followed with a shining mane of light. Dew fell from night's bridle each morning. Silver letters learning to write the grass. In older hymns than rivers, a lady of night with 1,000 eyes stars, not beasts, walked the sky. Villagers asked her to keep wolves out and darkness kind. Where kings raised stone along a wide river, a sky mother swallowed the sun each evening, and returned it each morning bright and new, and no heart trembled. For mothers are understood, thus nations disagreed on many things, and agreed on this: night is not the absence of light. Night is a someone. The world keeps itself by turns. There is a time for measuring thread and a time for letting the bobbin rest, a time for the scale and a time for the hand removed from the beam. Under Nyx's roof, even the busiest instruments learn to be still. The fates themselves, whether born of her or merely fond of her hall, set their tools down when the eldest hostess closes the shutters. Order is not only cutting and tying, it is also leaving well alone. In a city of white stone lived a magistrate who weighed men with a tilted beam. He liked how guilt slid easily to one side, and how favors perched feather light on the other. Plaintiffs learned to polish their coins till they shone like arguments. Defendants learned to dress their fear as if for festival. Word of the beam's leaning did not rise like a shout, it seeped like water under a door. One evening, Nemesis entered the city with the anonymity of dusk. No trumpet named her, no guard announced her. Balance rarely asks for notice. She came to the hall of judgment and stood near the scale, watching as a poor widow's case was folded and put away like cloth that did not match the season. When the hall emptied, Nemesis placed 2 stones on the table, one dark, one pale, alike in shape and weight. She set the dark on the rich man's pan and the pale on the widow's. The beam sank toward the rich man as if it had been waiting to be honest. The magistrate stared at what he had known and not admitted. Nemesis lifted the stones, said nothing, and left. That night, while the city slept, the magistrate dismantled the beam. He sanded the fulcrum till it sang as clean as a reed, replaced the strings, checked the arms against the line of a plum. When morning came, the scale stood straight. The hall felt like a room exhaling. Cases returned like birds to a mended branch. Verdicts still cut. Justice is a blade, but the blade found the right rope, and knots released without blood. The widow's matter was heard anew. It ended not with triumph, but with proportion. Nemesis's preferred ending. From then on, a small mark was carved into the bench where the magistrate placed his hand. Not a threat, only a reminder. Weight is owed its truth. There was once a sailor taken by a sudden gale, flung beyond the map's polite edges where drawings gave way to blank. For 3 days he rode the back of water. For 3 nights he listened to the sea's old language and could not yet answer. On the 4th night, when strength had narrowed to a candle's finger, a warmth stirred at his wrist. Before the voyage, a friend had pressed the sailor's hand and tied there a thin cord spun in a modest house at the city's edge. Not for storms, the friend had said, smiling without certainty. For remember, the string lay quiet under shirt and sleeve until the gale had done its boasting. Now it tugged not to starboard or port, but inward, where courage gathers when maps are poor. The sailor steadied the broken mast and gave the sea his last measured effort. He did not follow a star. Clouds held the sky hostage. He followed the memory of a doorway and the smell of bread. The cord warmed when his mind strayed toward panic and cooled when he turned to the image of a table that had always made room. On the seventh morning, the boat kissed a shoal with the courtesy of a guest who knows the horse. Fishermen found the sailor and asked whose luck had ferried him. He lifted his wrist. The cord shone with a patient light, not from the sun. They nodded, as men who mend nets nod when thread holds. In the city, the friends said nothing, only retied the knot that had loosened in the salt. Philotes, who loved small durable things, breathed on the knot and made it wise against weather. When Garrus comes, he does not kick doors. He knocks with careful knuckles, and the wood understands. One winter, he came to a homestead whose family measured worth by swiftness. They met him with blankets and bad manners. They spoke loudly about youth while their eyes checked the clock. Nyx, hearing this clatter, sent a mild lesson. That night the household dreamed the same dream. A tree in 3 seasons. In the first, it was proud with green and bent poorly in wind. In the second, it was laden and groaned under generosity. In the third, it was bare, and birds loved it for the room it offered. They woke quieter. Garrus took a chair near the hearth, and it did not creak under him. He showed them how to tie shoes sitting down, how to bless stairs without climbing them fast, how to fold a day so that nothing important fell through the crease. In time, even the swift grew proud of patience. They learned a new arithmetic in which small tasks done well earned more than large tasks dropped on the run. When a great-grandchild asked whether Garrus would leave soon, the old guest smiled with lips but not with eyes. Guests leave, he said. Households remain. The child nodded, not understanding, and offered him a plum. He accepted. Nyx shaded the roof with a deeper hue that evening, for houses that have learned this much deserve an extra hour of gentle dark. There is a door in every home that only night may open. Behind it is the room where the day sets down its armor, hooks for worry, shelves for anger, a basin for rinsing sorrow, a table laid with plain bread. Those who enter leave lighter. Those who leave return strong. Builders cannot draw this room. Masons cannot raise it, yet every wise house has it. The key is a habit handed from elder to child. When the sun goes, go with it a little way. The lake's skin held constellations as a tray holds cup. The dreamers tipped their bowls for a traveler far inland, whose thoughts had become a winter of small knives. Images arrived like migrating birds. First one, then many, a field at harvest, a linen folded with respect, a stare that did not demand knives forgot their employment and became reflections. The traveler woke at a pace older than alarm and walked to the work that would not harm him. Kings learned to keep a stool by the bed for the crown to sleep upon. Children learned to share blankets without counting stitching. Merchants learned to cover ledgers so that numbers might dream of becoming fruit. Shepherds learned to trust sheep to the old wisdom of fences. Wives and husbands learned the grammar of silence, where apology and forgiveness share one vowel. Courts placed curtains over their loudest doors. Scribes left margins generous enough for mercy. Fishermen mended nets to catch what ought to be caught and let the rest be rumor. The elders ended their telling with a blessing. May Nyx find those who need her, and not before. May she tie a small star into the hem of their sleep, so that when morning unbars the window, they will know they were guarded by the eldest of queens. Fires were banked till they glowed like rubies in ash. Infants opened hands they had clenched all day. Tools rested against the wall like antlers laid down at a shrine. Doorways were touched as if doorways had foreheads. The world remembered its manner long, long ago, and also tonight, and also tomorrow night, comes on silent feet. She is older than victory and kinder than defeat. She asks no oaths and takes no trophies. She gives what is needed and keeps what would break. When dawn is ready, Nyx places the world's hand into Day's palm, and the exchange is courteous. Day bows to her as to an elder and takes up bright errands. Nyx withdraws without sorrow. She is never truly gone. Thus ends the telling the elders trusted. Night is not the absence of light. Night is the presence of Nyx. Where she is present, rest becomes law, and where rest is law, beginnings keep their courage. The story ends, but the night remains. She folds her cloak around the world once more, walks softly through her shadow, my dreamwalkers. For in darkness even silence listens. Until she calls again, rest well within the Temple of Nyx.